But no, there's some questions actually about what we eat and ethical eating and
Yeah.
whatnot. We've had some interesting conversations on this, Nathan, so I'd love to hear. There's a couple I'm going to tie together. How can we eat in a way that is healthy for us and is taking care of the supply chain and the place and people who make the food available to us? But then I'm also going to put up one that I think is just so interesting to me right now in light of some of the different documentaries, if you can call them fully documentaries, out there about this. But should Christians eat meat? What do we say the argument on the meat industry and its perceived negative effects on the environment?
Can you read the first one? Are those the two?
Yeah, so
Can you
those
stick
are
the
the
first,
two.
what was the first one again?
The first one I'll put up here.
Oh, the supply chain and how do we...
Supply chain, how do we eat responsibly to the food
Yeah.
and care for the food that's available to us?
Yeah, I think there are a number of things there. So my wife and I always used to, you have, should I eat the conventionally grown strawberries that my neighbor grew, or should I eat the organic ones flown to me from Argentina? So part of it is educating yourself on what does the label actually mean. And I think that goes from how you source your eggs to your strawberries, of looking at like, okay, so this says all natural and you're picking this up and it has the picture of the cow out in the field. Like, okay, what's the reality behind that? So some of that I think is just on consumer education. Then I think there's the Mennonite cookbook, Simply in Season. It talks about eating seasonally. Should we be eating apples in April? Depending on where you live, maybe yes, maybe no. And so there's some thoughtfulness there too that I think you could place into that of do I want to think about how that supply chain. It's amazing when you start looking at part of this comes from living in a consumer culture of. My wife often likes to point out on a salad, for example, you have cool weather and hot weather crops both in one mix. Like nowhere in the world are they growing together at the same time in the same way. Like we rely on like 5 different countries to put together one dish for us. And so some of it, I think, just comes from the fun of asking a question, where did this come from? And then, and there's a lot of information online of kind of looking at what do these labels actually mean. And I think there are tons of, and this transitions in the next one, there are tons of people doing small-scale production of food, small-scale agriculture. Now, here's the thing. If you're going to be conscientious about it, it's going to cost more financially. And so eating the local thing that was produced at a small scale in a way that aligns with your values is going to cost you more money than eating something that was mass produced in a different country 6 weeks ago and frozen and shipped to you. So I think that would go into the next one about the meat industry too, is I think we should be mindful of recognizing that I'm okay eating meat with animals that were produced in a way that values them as animals. I'm a little more hesitant on the concept of the systems that treat animals like machines. And so I think there's a distinction there that can be made of, are we valuing the animalness of that animal, of is it allowed to express what it actually is? And so on one hand, if you look at that and you say, let's look at a cow, for example, something that can go out and eat grass its entire life, grass which has zero nutritional benefit to a human, and have a wonderful life in a bad 5 seconds, and provide a lot of calories that are quite frankly delicious. And when I look at that and say, well, would I rather have this 6 ounces of beef or a compressed cubic foot of spinach? Yeah, I'll go with the beef. But and actually you can graze those in a way that's restoring the land, that is on land that shouldn't be tilled, it controls the runoff. So I think part of it is just educating yourself on what are your values on that, and then vote with your wallet on these things. There are people who are out there, now there are some ridiculous ones out there who are happy to sell you a chicken named Susan for $96 that, wore a sweater their whole life. I don't think you need to go that far. That's not respecting the chicken on the other direction. But I think we live in a place where you have a market that if this is a problem for you, look into it, and there are legitimate alternatives. And so, yeah, I have my own personal experiences on how I think about some of that stuff, but another time.
Yeah,